Hello, Void Dwellers. In my latest videos on the subject of anti-Semitism, I've been talking about how anti-Semitism is embedded into Western culture. And I think a lot of people miss my point when I say that, because they assume I'm saying the entirety of the Western world is Nazi-like violent anti-Semites. And I'm definitely not saying that. But you know what? Just now, the channel TLDR dropped this video, which demonstrates exactly what I mean. Because here's the thing. Do I think that people behind this channel are indeed Nazi sympathizers or something? No. Do I think they sit around a table and ask, how are we going to make people hate Jews? No, of course not. But I do think they are anti-Semitic, and that is guiding their hand in their work without them even realizing it. This is not anti-Semitism by choice. This is anti-Semitism by culture. And let me explain what I mean. Let's look at this video of theirs. Will Israel annex the West Bank? Aside from the clickbaity nature of the title, you might be wondering what has brought this up. Is it something being discussed right now in Israel? Are they making moves towards it? No, nothing changed. The excuse given in TLDR's video is an operation by the IDF in the West Bank. Let's hear what they say.
While much attention is on Gaza, the fate of its fragile ceasefire and the plans for reconstruction, the situation in the occupied West Bank is increasingly volatile. 2 days after the Gaza ceasefire came into effect, Israel launched its largest military operation in the West Bank in decades. The ongoing operation has displaced tens of thousands of Palestinians from major cities, as Israel says it aims to eradicate terrorism in West Bank strongholds and a signal that it could continue for the coming year. In this video, we're going to explain why fears are heightened that Israel, with the backing of the United States, may pursue annexation of the West Bank.
First of all, notice that number, 40,000 Palestinians supposedly removed from their homes. That is completely fake. That never happened. They don't give a source for it. They don't give a source for it in the description. Nothing. If you even ask ChatGPT about it, it would say it cannot find any reliable source for that. This number alone tells you the source of information these guys use. This fake number was running around in some anti-Israeli and anti-Semitic social media groups. But it's fake. There's no real report like that. It never happened. Second, they failed to mention the real reason of the recent IDF activity in the West Bank, which is Hamas and Islamic Jihad trying to take over by force, shooting at Palestinian Authority officers, igniting a mini civil war between them. Israel interfered in support of the Palestinian Authority, which is an obvious interest so that the West Bank won't go the way Gaza did. So, right off the bat, you start with one completely fake report, and a second one that is very misleading because they are only telling you half the truth. Then they go on with the usual, evil Jews are doing evil things and that's why there's tension in the West Bank, completely ignoring the fact that a majority of the population in the West Bank are Islamists or jihadists who tweet things like Hitler was right and celebrated the 7th of October. So yeah, believe it or not, that is a reason for tensions too. Not just us evil Jews. And then they completely ignore the fact that the West Bank has Jewish history, that half of it is on what the Palestinians themselves call the Judean desert, Sahara el Yahudim, as in Judea, you know, where Jews are from. That's like seeing a Native American building a settlement in America and saying those natives are illegally occupying the American land. And then they even mention checkpoints and restrictions of movement in the West Bank as a cause for tension. But they fail to mention that those checkpoints and restrictions were only introduced after the Second Intifada, in which a savage wave of murderous attacks by Palestinians took the lives of over 800 Israeli civilians. So I think anyone can see that the image they are spreading to their viewers is far from unbiased, objective, or indeed even true in any way or form. And from there, the video just goes on to say that Netanyahu and his government would have wanted to annex everything, but they probably won't because the Americans and the world won't like it. The end. Well, let me spoil it even more for you. It's not a real thing in Israel. It's not being discussed. And it won't have a majority anyway. First and foremost, because annexing those territories would mean making the 3 million Palestinians who live there Israeli citizens, most of which are Islamists who support barbaric murder and think that Hitler was kind of an okay guy. So, no thank you, we can do without those people. There might be a majority for annexing parts of the West Bank, where there's Jewish majority and a significant Jewish history, but even that is not on the table right now. In fact, this government is not sure to last much longer, as it might have trouble passing the budget, and that means by law that they would have to go to an election. Not to mention the war in Gaza is still going on, and there are still about 60 hostages, around half of them alive, so no one is even in the mindset of talking about the West Bank at all. So what's going on? Why make this video now? Why make it so wrong and inciting against Israel? Simple. Money. Anti-Semitism is fashionable right now. Being anti-Israel sells, especially when you are pandering to the left like these guys do. And when it comes to Israel, everything is allowed. Lying, incitement, it's all okay, for profit or for fun. Why? Because it's about Jews. Now, do these people sit around and dream up ways of making people hate Jews? No. Do these people think it's okay to hate Jews? Yes. Even if they don't admit it. Because everything I said here could be checked very easily. That 40,000 Palestinians forced to move from their homes nonsense, that can be debunked by a quick Google search or just by asking an AI about it. But they didn't do that. And that's the point. I don't think they checked it and decided to go with it even though it's a lie. I think they didn't even bother checking. Because they are prepared to believe the worst about Jews, no matter how ridiculous. I wouldn't be surprised if one day they'd say Jewish lasers in space are causing natural disasters. I mean, as long as we're making shit up. Because they can't help it. From infancy, they've been told by their culture that Jews are evil. It's in their scriptures. It's on their TV. It's in their books. Hell, The Merchant of Venice, a celebrated Shakespearean play that had been performed for centuries and had multiple movies made out of it. And the happy ending of this story is that the Jew is tricked into either commit suicide or convert to Christianity. Ha! The Jew has learned his lesson. If this was any other minority, if this was a native tribal person that is forced to convert to Christianity, that play would have been banned long ago. But Jews, anti-Semitism flies under the radar in the West. The idea that Jews are evil and should convert, even now, in these atheist times, that cultural attitude is still around. So do the TLDR people sit around and think how we are going to make people hate Jews? No. But they spend their time in anti-Semitic groups, and when they hear someone lies about how 40,000 people are displaced because of evil Jews, they don't doubt it. They don't question it for 1 second. They just go with it and they spread it around. And that's the kind of anti-Semitism that I'm talking about, that is rampant in the West, that is embedded into Western culture. Yeah, these people will not physically assault a Jew in the streets, but they do participate in creating the atmosphere that would make someone assault Jews in the street. And they believe they are right. Fuck that. They are righteous to do so. Because as far as they are concerned, Jews are always bringing it on themselves by their evil deeds. That's what they've been told. That's how they've been brought up. Especially those Jews who do not bow their heads and admit their inferiority, you know? Those dirty Jews who claim they are people with equal rights, including the right for self-determination, filthy Zionists. The West has an anti-Semitism cancer, especially the media of the West. And that includes mainstream media and this so-called alternative media, which is not an alternative to anything, as they just regurgitate what the mainstream media is reporting, and they don't report what the big boys don't report. It's a mini-me, nothing more. But the point is, they are part of the anti-Semitism cancer in the West. Now, personally, I think it's time Jews recognize it and change tactic. Bowing our heads usually get them chopped off. So maybe it's time to, stop doing that. But in any case, I hope this has made my point about anti-Semitism embedded into Western culture a bit clearer. That's why I say it's a different issue to the one that we have in the Arab world, which is a politically driven form of anti-Semitism. In the West, it's cultural. Before Israel, before both Zionism and Arab nationalism, Arabs and Jews were mostly okay with each other. The West, on the other hand, never needed a political reason to hate us. It's part of the culture, and it starts all the way back in ancient Rome. And if you want to learn about that, my video on the origins of anti-Semitism in the West is linked in the description.